Hello guys, let's talk about the terrain and the tools and the stuff you can do with the terrain tools. We are back in our tutorial zoo and I decided that step by step we're gonna build this huge habitat, which I outlined a little bit here using the terrain painting tool, and we are going to step by step go through these tutorials, one episode each time. This will be about terrain. Next week probably gonna tackle barriers, then the paths, then the foliage, and all the stuff you need to do some habitat. And I'm gonna show you some tips, some tricks, some advanced techniques what you can do to make your habitat interesting. So this one will be for you know what, I'm not going to tell you for what animal it is actually. We will have to wait a little bit for that. So first of all, let's do some terraforming. We want to have a lake, a big lake in the middle, so we can do the sculpting, for example. That's one way to do it. Yeah, and okay, let's pause here. Whatever terraforming you're doing, you have an option to select certain paint for it. So if I go to painting, I can select soil, and then in the sculpting, if I use select it, you will terraform and paint to whatever you are selected. You can go also to auto paint and it will select probably a grass for some flat terrain, and maybe a little bit of rocks. It's not shown here. Yeah, a little bit of rocks for the more steep terrain, so that is also an option. So the sculpting, push and pull, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. You either push and or pull the terrain. You could use a flatten to foundation. I think that's a great tool if I want to make some sort of a deep hole here and I want the bottom of that hole to be completely flat. We can go with the flatten the terrain to wherever you start, it will flatten to the selected height. Interesting one is a chisel, which is actually just making a hole of the selected shape. So if I start to chisel, for example, here you see I'm making this round hole here. Smooth, that's I think obvious. You just smoothing the edges. The roughen is also interesting. You just roughen it up, some random shapes, if you will. And then this guy, flatten to surface, it's pretty similar to flatten to foundation, but you can flatten to a different angle. So let's create some slopey angle here, and wherever you click you then flatten the terrain to this angle. Okay, this is actually pretty useful if I want to make some not too steep okay. It's a little bit tricky to use. To be honest, I don't use it a lot. So those are the tools we have, and then we of course have another tools. It's a terrain stamps, where you can select basically any shape and add terrain or then subtract terrain like this. This is actually a pretty useful tool. I use it very often when making some pathways, or let's say I prepare the terrain for the pathways that goes to the down or up the slope. So we will flatten this to the terrain we have at first, then press X, and with X again you can adjust the slope that you're getting like this a little bit to, yeah, maybe that's too much. I don't want it to be really steep. I will adjust. I can adjust the width a little bit, and then move it, and then we can, with this technique, create perfect slope. Oh, it's not steep enough. It would take us like forever to get to the bottom. So I want to create a underwater viewing here, as you might guess, and from this side there will be no stairs. Let's go to flatten to foundation now. There will be no stairs, but ADA compliant access. Hope it's not too steep, and we probably go for the stairs on the other side. Now let's create the bottom of our lake, which will be, I think, pretty huge. I want steep terrain on this side, and once again we can use the terrain stamp tool. We can add terrain, maybe extend the height a little bit. Why it's stuck? Oh, okay. And then we can just create like this. We have very steep edge, maybe maybe too steep, but never mind. And then on this side I want actually a slope for the access by the animal, so I will use once again this awesome tool to do it. That should be enough. Then I think most useful is flatten to foundation usually, and then smooth, because you want to smooth out the ugly edges and ugly humps you're getting. You can get some various shapes in here, like cylinder, pyramid. Pyramid's interesting. We can make some sort of a landmark here somewhere. Yeah, then roughen it up. Let's try what we're going to get. Oh, okay. That didn't quite work as I thought it would be. Yeah, let's not do it here. We will make a landmark somewhere in the back. It's not going to be pyramids per se. I will probably use the terrain tool to smooth it up, maybe push-pull some more. It won't be accessible by our mysterious animal. And then on this side what I actually want to do is a big hill. So to do a big hill, I think the best idea how you can achieve that is you will raise a little bit, and then you can use the flatten to foundation like this, then pull. You will select a big size and you finish the edges like this, pull it, or you can use the terrain stamp tool, just what I've done here in the edge of the water. Okay, smooth it up so it doesn't look that ugly. Some more pulls. Working with the terrain is usually pretty time consuming task, and no wonder that if you're starting your zoo you're probably working with the flat terrain, and that's definitely not a bad idea, because getting some interesting terrain up is not easy. You will flatten to foundation some more, and I want to create on the edge of this habitat this hole which will serve as a natural barrier for the animal that's going to be there. Let me finish it all around. That should be fine. Now smooth the edges a little bit more. We don't need necessarily to be perfect. We will actually, I will show you later on how to do that, like the circle barrier here. So we will need to adjust the terrain then anyway, and then we will make it more interesting here. Yeah, so it's not completely flat, the bottom. Now we can add water. Water can be added in 1 meter increments actually, so you're not completely free to select the level of your water, but the 1 meter increments are fine. Always make sure you have the barrier all around. The barrier of water can be either the terrain, or you can use the barrier of a habitat which is waterproof. That's for example glass, watertight. You could see concrete is watertight, however logically steel mesh is not watertight, but that's going to be task for another episode. Yeah, we are nearing the end. I skipped the terrain painting, but I think that's pretty obvious that you can just change the texture, and this depends on the animal you are getting. Certain animals has different requirements, so I'm not going to go through that today, but rather later on. But I think in the next episode we're going to look at the barriers, and we will create barrier for our excellent habitat, which is shaping up to be pretty nice and interesting, don't you think? So till then, have fun guys.